So today on Straight Talk, I'm with Mike Sawchuk, who's a consultant to the cleaning industry, and he specializes in manufacturing and distribution, helping executives and business owners to better run their companies. Well, Mike, welcome to Straight Talk. Glad to have you here. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, ISSA, for having me. I am doing fine, and I hope yourself and your family is doing fine as well.
We're doing good. And ISSA, and especially the media department, appreciates folks like you who write for us. We have an article on our site today, and it's going out in our news, and it'll be in print later on, but it's an article called An Ever Evolving New Normal that you wrote. And we really appreciate the content that experts like you provide us. So,
thank you.
You know, reading something's one thing, talking about the high points is another. So that's what I want to do today. Get your informal thoughts on what you wrote, if that's okay with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff.
So in your article, you do talk about, and you call it a cliche, I believe, it's called the ever evolving new normal. I don't know if it's so new anymore, but what are your thoughts on that for distribution? Is this what we see right now? Is this how it's going to be, or are things going to change again, or what?
As you said, it is a cliche and probably an overused cliche. The new normal is not going to stay. Whatever you've done was in January, then there's a different normal in probably March or April. There's a different normal today, and that's going to continue to evolve. No one with certainty can predict what will it be like at their state or their city, especially in the United States, because it does vary by city, by state, etc. So that normal is going to continue to evolve over the next 6, 12 to 18 months, but at least 6, maybe 18 months. And distribution, as well as manufacturers and users, are going to have to recognize that it is going to change. So they're going to have to remain flexible and fluid. They're going to have to remain very attached to their key customers, understanding what do they want, what they need, and figure out the best way to deliver, proven value to those particular customers. And again, it's going to be that constantly monitoring and assessing of their strategies, their focus, their plans, and then adjusting it, as I said, as required in order to take advantage. And that's the key, to take advantage of the change and disruption and creating opportunity for themselves. And as stated earlier, Jeff, they can't remain fixed that what is normal today is going to stay this new normal, because it will constantly evolve slightly over the next 6 to 18 months.
Great advice for our distributors, the supply chain, and really anyone in business today. Hey, Mike, there's one thing that caught my eye in your article. You mentioned that e-commerce came 10 years early. Now, we've had e-commerce for a while, but I think what you mean is the percentage of those using e-commerce. Online giants like Amazon own e-commerce. You know, if you want something, you just click the mouse and it comes to your door, your business. What about professional cleaning supplies? How can traditional distribution professionals compete?
Great question, Jeff. Great question. I think the first thing is recognize that e-commerce is here to stay. And if you just try to ignore it, it's going to be to your detriment or your business detriment. There's different statistics out there, but they say by 2025, 25 to 30% of all dollars transacted in business to business will be through e-commerce. So that's a huge market share that you're saying no to if you don't have an e-commerce solution to give them. Second of all, if you don't have an e-commerce today, and unfortunately the Jansen industry, too many have been negligent, I'd probably use that word a little bit harshly, but negligent in not investing in a robust, focused e-commerce system. So most of the bigger players have one, and they're going to have to constantly improve upon that. And the ones that don't have it, they should get something ASAP. It's going to be too late if they don't invest very quickly. Second of all, I think the key to recognize is that companies like Amazon, as you mentioned, but there's others out there, even in the Jansen space, that have a good e-commerce platform. We must recognize that consumers, it could be our current customers, go to some of those sites to buy products today, but more importantly, on their off time, they're going to consumer type sites. So maybe they're Amazon and buying something for their home, their family, etc. So they're being exposed, and Amazon is setting the bar. So now they're setting those expectations. So a lot of our purchasers in the Jansen world, when they go to the Jansen website, let it be manufacturing or distribution, they're comparing those experiences, how easy it is to sort, the comparison, the delivery, that whole experience on the e-commerce side of Amazon and others compared to that particular site. Saying all that, I think, Jeff, that today there's not enough resources, time, dollars, people, that the typical Jansen distribution company or manufacturing or even end users have to invest. So they're going to have to be very focused on where to spend their dollars, times, and human resources. And though I always recognize that e-commerce is required moving forward, period. That's got to be a recognition. Number two, start with a very clear understanding of their best, fastest growing, most profitable customers. I've worked with various distribution and they're talking about sales, but when you look at sales and just a simple mathematical calculation, taking the gross profit dollars of that customer, multi-million-dollar customer, subtracting from that $75 per invoice, and that customer was a negative profit customer, just with that simple one-line exercise. So understand who are your best, fastest growing, most profitable customers. You can't be everything to everyone, and especially if you've got these limited resources. So focus your time on that category of customers. You're going to be in terrible shape if you lose one of those customers. I've worked with customers, the 20% of their customers on profitability, that top 20% on profitable customers for them, for their operation, represents 70 to 80% of their revised gross profit dollars. So it'd be critical to them if they lose one or two of their major customers. So those ones they need to know best. And what I say, whoever knows them the best is going to win long term. And then from there, Jeff, you give them what they want, the products that they want, how they want those products bundled with tools and equipment, the type of content, how they want to deliver to them, etc. And then from that, it goes right back to what I said earlier, Jeff. The choice is simple. And that's why I said focus. You can be 1 inch deep, a mile wide. You're trying to please all your customers. And at the end of the day, if you try to please all your customers, what you're really doing is treating your best customers inadequately. So the point is, become 1 inch wide, but a mile deep with those key customers that are your best, fastest growing, most profitable customers. If you're out there just saying, here's a product that the customer could buy a product number from 3M or whatever manufacturer, you're going to lose. The Amazon, Staples, Grangers of the world, they're going to kill you on that. So what you need to do is probably bundle the products with the right tools and the right equipment. Second, focus on the why. They're not the what, not that chemical or that custodial hardware, but you need to focus on the why those products and tools bundled together is going to give them what, not the product, but why should they be listening to you. Last thing is pricing. In our industry, there's a lot of room for improved pricing. So let it be using software that's available out there or pricing models, but you really need to price your products accordingly, your cost to serve, the volume by product, etc. So those would be my tips on what to look for in an e-commerce strategy.
Yeah, good stuff, Mike. As a consumer, I'll go into a store and I'll look for something, and I don't see what I want. I just say to myself, why didn't I just order it online? And usually I'll pull out my phone right there and do that.
Right.
Of course, with professional cleaners and everything they need, it's not that simple, but I agree that distributors out there today are going to offer that e-commerce if they don't already.
And that's my point, Jeff, is that if you're just offering a similar product to Amazon and those other major retailers in our space, well, the customers are eventually going to figure that out and say, hey, you've been ripping me off all this time if you're not competitively priced to them. Or second of all, you're going to have this race to zero because you're not going to have the critical mass, the buying power, et cetera, to be able to compete with those larger ones. And then the other part is that experience. As I alluded to earlier, Jeff, in that in today's world, if you're a Jansen distribution, you can't argue that your Diversity product is so much better than the other guy's Diversity product, or a Diversity cleaner is that much better than another brand name cleaner. At the end of the day, it's becoming more and more difficult to differentiate. We always talk about having a value-added proposition and clear differentiation, but how do you differentiate as a Janssen distributor? And one of the ways, one of probably only two ways that I would recommend that makes sense for distribution is the end-to-end customer experience. So if they go to your website and it isn't easy to navigate, or if they order something, then it's not in stock and it takes weeks to get to them as opposed to 24 hours like the Amazon. If there's no communications, but Amazon and others are training the expectations as a consumer when they're buying something, what they should expect from a Janssen. So it's critical that that part of e-commerce isn't looked upon as a standalone tool. It's got to be integrated and be part of a comprehensive end-to-end total customer experience that they have with your company.
One last point, Mike, I want to make from your article. It's where you mentioned that distributors must have a wow factor. A wow factor. I think we understand what that means. I'm betting that you don't mean a good cup of coffee when you walk into a store, maybe something beyond that. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the wow factor.
I think the end users is going to be critical when someone's going to make a choice. Do I come into your gym or your restaurant or someone else's, your salon or someone else's, or come into this place of business, let it be a stadium, a arena, et cetera, or someone else's? The end users that I spoke to, Jeff, it comes out loud and clear. We have a discovery session, and at the end of the day, it's typically 3 or 4 points that come out. Number one, they recognize we must do something different. If the cleaning or the distribution partner says, well, just do the same thing you're doing or you've done in January or February, that'll be good enough, that's not going to win. So it's got to be something clearly different. Number two is a form of validation verification. Our industries, oh, we do this and we provide this, and here's our task, here's our frequency, et cetera. But customers today are asking for some proof of validation or verification that you actually did use those products, that you actually did use those procedures, you actually did use those frequencies. So the something different, form of validation, verification, and then you need to help, typically I would recommend distribution, help them communicate to their stakeholders, to their leaders, to their employees, to their patrons, on what are they doing different and how are they verifying and validating that these things are being done to provide the safest, most disinfected, less chance of pathogens being transmitted in the facility. Lastly is that wow factor, as you said, or I put in my article. They're actually looking for something that really is different. So it could be robotic auto scrubbers. It could be drones to apply, a disinfectant, sanitizer, or some sort of microbial product. It could be using electrostatic sprayers. It could be using UV foot baths. It could be using some sort of sensors for screening people before they even get into the building. But they are looking for something that is truly different. And it may not be different to us in the industry, but to the consumer. And those 3 or 4 things, something different, need to communicate, that need to validate and verify, and wow with a new technology is something that's required. And then as distribution, they may have to help their customers prioritize on what makes sense for their given situation and customers.
Well, thanks, Mike. Great stuff. For all those watching this, if you want to read the article, it's called An Ever-Evolving New Normal. There's that cliche, new normal, but that's the title of the article. It's on issa.com. You can find it in the news section, the article section, and also it's being put out in CMM Daily News as well, and later on in print.